At 0600 hours on June 8, 1944, the eastern sky over RAF Rattlesden was still gray with mist when Technical Sergeant Robert E. Orlowski crouched beneath the left wing of a B-17G Flying Fortress. Fuel dripped steadily from the seam of a newly replaced seal, each drop darkening the concrete beneath him. He watched it closely, waited, then wiped the area clean and checked again. No leak. In 12 hours, this airplane would carry 10 men into combat over occupied France. Orlowski was 26 years old. He had spent 3 years as an aircraft mechanic and 0 missions in the air. His war was fought on the flight line, with cold metal under his hands and engines that could fail without warning. In April alone, the 447th Bomb Group had lost 21 B-17s. Only the infamous Bloody Hundredth had suffered worse losses in a single month. 11 crew chiefs at Rattlesden had watched aircraft they maintained disappear into cloud and flak, most never returning. Orlowski tightened the last fastener, stood, and moved toward engine number 3. The right R-1820 Cyclone had logged 42 hours since its last oil change. He pulled the dipstick, wiped it clean, checked again. The oil was dark but smooth. No metal flecks. No glitter. That didn't mean safety. Engines failed in flight with no warning at all. A single bearing could overheat. A fuel line could rupture. A magneto could quit at altitude, turning a bomber into a falling coffin. At any given moment, half the B-17s at Rattlesden were grounded with mechanical issues. This fortress had arrived just 2 days earlier. Serial number 43 to 37,756. No name. No mission markers. No reputation. Just another replacement aircraft in a bomb group burning through bombers faster than Boeing could replace them. Orlowski's job was brutally simple. Keep it flying. He climbed onto the wing and opened the cowling of engine number 2. The ignition harness needed inspection. He traced every wire with his fingers, slow and methodical, feeling for fraying insulation or heat cracks. One failed wire could cause a misfire. A misfire could lead to an engine fire. An engine fire over Germany often ended with parachutes, or none at all. The 447th had flown its first mission on Christmas Eve 1943. Since then, dozens of aircraft had been lost. Some to fighters, some to flak, but many never reached the target at all. Fuel leaks, hydraulic failures, electrical shorts. Bombers that aborted were bombers that delivered nothing. Orlowski had learned his trade at technical schools across the United States. Engines, hydraulics, electrical systems. 18 months of training before he ever touched a combat aircraft. Now he was responsible for everything on this fortress, for engines, fuel systems, hydraulics, electrics, oxygen. Hundreds of thousands of parts that all had to work perfectly, or men died. The first crew assigned to the aircraft included navigator August Altus, recently transferred from the 15th Air Force in Italy. When that crew returned from their first mission over Berlin on June 21st, someone asked how flying from England compared to Italy. Altus shrugged. Milk run, he said. Easy. The crew named the aircraft Milk Wagon. They painted a cartoon cow on the nose. Beneath it, the words Milk Wagon. For every completed mission, they planned to paint a white milk bottle on the fuselage. Orlowski thought it was ridiculous. A cow. Milk bottles. Superstition painted on aluminum. But now that cartoon cow belonged to him too. He finished the engine inspection and climbed down as ground crews began loading bombs and ammunition. 5,000 rounds of 50 caliber ammo, 2,500 pounds of bombs, nearly 2,000 gallons of fuel. He walked around the aircraft one final time, checking landing gear, brake lines, control surfaces. Everything moved smoothly. Statistics didn't care. B-17s averaged 30 accidents per 100,000 flight hours. Mechanical failures were expected, accepted, almost inevitable. If something hadn't failed yet, it would soon. Orlowski stepped back and looked at the fortress. The cow looked foolish, but this was his airplane now. And standing there on the damp concrete, he made a decision that would define the rest of his war. Other crew chiefs did their jobs. They followed the technical manuals. They fixed what broke. Orlowski would do more. He would inspect every system before every mission, not just required checks, everything. He would replace parts before they failed. He would catch problems before they became emergencies. He would turn this cow-painted bomber into the most reliable aircraft in the 8th Air Force. If failure was inevitable, he would beat inevitability. On July 19, 1944, Wagon was scheduled for its next mission, an 8-hour round trip to a synthetic oil plant deep inside Germany. Before dawn, Orlowski was already on the flight line. 3 other B-17s at Rattle's Den aborted before takeoff that morning. One with a fuel pressure issue, another with a magneto failure, a third with hydraulic warnings that couldn't be cleared in time. By noon, 2 more bombers had turned back over the channel. Wagon did not. At 0730, Orlowski watched the Fortress lift off, its 4 Cyclones climbing smoothly into formation with 35 other B-17s from the 447th Bomb Group. He didn't cheer. He didn't smile. He simply noted engine exhaust color, gear retraction timing, and climb rate. He stayed on the hard stand until the formation vanished into cloud. 8 hours later, Wagon returned. No engine issues. No hydraulic leaks. No electrical faults. No abort. 1 mission complete. 1 white milk bottle painted on the fuselage. Orlowski had the aircraft back on jacks within 20 hours. He performed a full post-flight inspection, not the required one, but his version. Every engine cylinder was checked for hairline cracks. Every hydraulic line was pressurized and inspected. Every electrical connection was reseated and cleaned. He found nothing wrong. That didn't reassure him. Over the next 3 weeks, Wagon flew 7 more missions: Berlin, Merseburg, Munich. Flights lasting between 6 and 9 hours. Every mission exposed the aircraft to flak, fighters, violent turbulence, and the brutal strain of tight formation flying. And every time, the Fortress came home. 8 missions, 8 milk bottles, 0 mechanical aborts. Other B-17s at Rattle's Den were not so fortunate. On July 24th, 3 bombers aborted with engine trouble. On August 1st, 2 more turned back with hydraulic failures. On August 9th, a Fortress lost electrical power over Germany and limped home on emergency systems alone. Orlowski studied every failure. He talked to the other crew chiefs, learned what broke and why. Fuel pumps overheated. Oil coolers cracked. Supercharger regulators drifted out of tolerance. Hydraulic actuators leaked under pressure. Each failure became a lesson, and each lesson was applied to Wagon. He began replacing parts well before their service limits. Oil filters every 25 hours instead of 50. Spark plugs at 100 hours instead of 200. Hydraulic seals at the first sign of seepage. He kept detailed logs, component histories, pressure readings, oil analysis results. He knew the life story of every part on the aircraft. Other crew chiefs followed the manuals. Orlowski went beyond them. By September 1944, Wagon had flown 20 missions, 20 milk bottles painted on its fuselage. It was the longest uninterrupted streak in the 708th Bomb Squadron. Autumn came. Missions continued. Berlin, Hamburg, Cologne, Kiel. The bomber absorbed battle damage, flak holes, shrapnel scars, bent control surfaces, but its mechanical systems never failed. Orlowski and his ground crew patched the damage between missions, straightened metal, replaced panels. Engines kept running. Hydraulics held pressure. Electrical systems stayed stable. October brought ice. Temperatures at altitude dropped below -40 degrees. Fuel lines froze. Hydraulic fluid thickened. Electrical insulation became brittle. Across the base, bombers began aborting with cold weather failures. Wagon kept flying. By November, it had completed 50 missions. 50 white bottles lined the fuselage, the longest uninterrupted mission streak in the 447th Bomb Group, possibly the entire 3rd Air Division. Orlowski was summoned to group headquarters. He expected a reprimand. Unauthorized maintenance, excessive part usage, wasting resources. Instead, the engineering officer asked a single question. "How are you doing it?" Orlowski explained. "Extra inspections, preventive replacement, detailed logs, constant monitoring, no shortcuts." The officer listened, then told him to continue. Wagon was now the most reliable bomber at Rattle's Den. When other aircraft aborted, Wagon flew. When mechanical failures grounded half the group, Wagon was ready. By December 1944, the Fortress had flown 70 missions. Then Germany struck back. On December 16, 1944, Germany launched its last great gamble in the West. Panzer divisions smashed through the Ardennes forest. Snow fell without pause. Airfields froze. Engines refused to start. Hydraulic fluid turned to sludge. The Battle of the Bulge had begun, and the 8th Air Force was ordered to fly maximum-effort missions in the worst weather of the war. Every available bomber would be needed, including Wagon. On Christmas Eve, Orlowski conducted his pre-mission inspection in sub-freezing darkness. Ice glazed the wings. Wind cut through gloves. He checked oil viscosity one more time. Ran hydraulic pressure tests one more time. Heated electrical junctions with portable lamps to drive out moisture. Nothing was rushed. Nothing was skipped. Wagon took off at 0800 hours with more than 700 B-17s, the largest Christmas Eve strike of the war. 9 hours later, it returned. No mechanical failures. Mission 71. Between December 24th and January 1st, Wagon flew 6 missions in 8 days. Other bombers aborted regularly. Frozen controls, cracked lines, dead generators. Wagon kept flying. By January 1945, the cow-painted fortress had completed 80 missions without a single mechanical abort. By February, it passed 100. Newspaper correspondents arrived at Rattlesden, photographed the aircraft, interviewed crews. The bomber that never turned back. The most reliable B-17 in England. Pilots spoke of luck. Navigators praised the aircraft. Gunners joked about the cow. No one mentioned Orlowski. He preferred it that way. On March 15, 1945, Orlowski was ordered to attend a ceremony. The group commander read the citation aloud. Bronze Star Medal for exceptionally meritorious service in maintaining B-17G serial number 43 to 37,756 through over 100 combat missions without a single mechanical abort. The medal was pinned on. Hands were shaken. Photographs taken. 10 minutes later, Orlowski was back on the flight line. Wagon was scheduled to fly again. April brought the end. Allied armies crossed the Rhine. Targets vanished faster than bomb groups could find them. On April 21, 1945, Wagon flew its final combat mission, Mission 129. No failures. No aborts. Not on the first mission. Not on the last. Not ever. Germany surrendered on May 7th. Wagon sat on the hardstand, 129 white bottles covering its fuselage. The cartoon cow barely visible beneath the markings. The most reliable B-17 in the European theater. In July, the bomber flew home to the United States. Orlowski watched it lift off for the last time. He would not be aboard. The aircraft was sent to Kingman, Arizona. Like thousands of others, it was cut apart. Engines removed. Wings separated. Aluminum melted down. No museum saved it. But the record remained. 129 consecutive combat missions. 0 mechanical aborts. In an air war where failure was routine, where engines quit and systems broke and crews died because machines failed, one bomber never did. Because one mechanic refused to accept that failure was inevitable. Robert E. Orlowski never flew a combat mission. Never faced flak or fighters. But every time Wagon returned, 10 men lived because their aircraft did not betray them. That is what victory sometimes looks like. Quiet, methodical, relentless, and almost forgotten.